Where's the grapes? Check this out.
Hello and welcome back to the Youth Group Reunion Tour podcast, the podcast that unpacks the Christian cultural touchstones you grew up in the 90s and 2000s. And I'm your host, Mikey B.
And I'm your co-host. My name's Jared.
And we switched it up on you today.
The reason for that is Mike is clearly driving the episode this week because this is the first topic we have done where I have not even had a passing interest in it until we have done the podcast.
Wow. Really setting this up to be a real winner of an episode, Jared.
In fact, adamantly against it. So we're going to have some hot takes.
Yeah, I feel like it's good to discuss these sort of things and we can kind of get to the bottom of it because in my view, this band is pretty polarizing, right? You either love them or you hate them. There's a lot of people who are meh, so I can't say they truly are polarizing, right? But the fans are super fans, right? You can't be a casual fan, in my view. I think that, you are in their realm, and if you are a fan, you are one of them, and if you're not, that's okay. But we are going to get into the band today called Switchfoot, and so Switchfoot is, I think, a great example of youth group band. They've been around for a long time. They are still around, still on tour, still making music, got a brand new album out this year. They have really changed a lot, and so have we since the youth group days. So it was interesting listening to their music as we went back to this, just to refresh our memory on what they were and what I remember about Switchfoot. So I was going to start from most recent here before we get into this.
You mentioned that they were on tour, and you know that firsthand, isn't that right?
I do. I saw them in Cleveland about a week ago, actually exactly a week ago from the time that we're recording this episode. So in our household, we have a family band, right? I don't know if your family has like a family band, but when we mean family band, we're not talking about.
I don't even know. I'm thinking like Jackson 5 or like the Monkees right now, but no, I don't see my family band even.
Yeah, no, it's not like the Partridge Family or anything. Like it's not like we play in a band. It's more like, what is the band or musical group that everybody can kind of agree with, right? It's really hard when you have moms and dads and trying to find an intersection of, those two personalities. It's really hard to find a band that everybody in our family could agree on.
So a band that maybe like if you were going on like a family trip somewhere, if you put it on, no one would be mad at it. Everyone would be down with it.
Exactly. It's really hard to find those bands. I don't know if you can think of a band that was like that for your family.
I don't know that there is anything that like my mom and I would both really be into. Like my mom would probably tolerate a lot of stuff that I like. I mean, like when I was in high school, like she put up with listening to me listen to like screamo and stuff. So like I'm sure she wasn't like into Showbread or Norma Jean or whatever, but she was like, all right, this is what the kids are listening to. And she was like, and you're sure this is Christian? I was like, positive, Mom. She's like, all right.
Okay.
She was like, all right, go for it.
Yeah. Well, that was nice of her. We'll get into that in a little bit. But our family group that everyone could agree on was a band called Collective Soul. And most people, when you say the name Collective Soul, most people have no idea who that is unless you're in the know.
Yeah, I really, this is a real bait and switch for me. I thought you were saying Switchfoot, and now
no,
there's another band I've never heard of.
It is not. Well, most people would know the song that goes, "Whoa, heaven let your light shine down."
Okay,
that song. Yep.
I know that song.
So classic song, rock and roll song, right? So. My dad likes it because it has guitars in it. He's a really good guitar player. My mom likes it because it's catchy and uses a lot of woes and stuff. And so we got tickets to this concert because.
Why does Sarah like it?
Well, I'm just saying, like, Sarah likes it for a combination of the reasons, as do I, right? Okay. But my mom and my dad's musical taste is like very, very different, right? Okay. Like it's very. My mom is very much like Air One mom core is what I would call it, right? So if it's on K-Love or if it's on The Fish or Air One, That's my mom's, right? So like
Yeah.
what I consider true momcore is
Yeah.
like Mandisa, right? To me, Mandisa is like epitome of a momcore artist, where like the primary, it's just like happy, like feel good type of songs that um, I don't know. I just associate with momcore. So my
Well, what's
dad,
your yeah, yeah.
I was going to say my dad likes classic rock, right? So he was into Queen, he was into, Led Zeppelin, like that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
the intersection between momcore and classic rock is really tough to find that bridge. But
Yeah.
Collective Soul, they were a bridge because, they were able to go between both of those things where they had catchy choruses and
Mhm.
still rocking guitars. That's kind of my introduction to this. And so
Okay.
because it's our family band, we um, we had actually gone to a concert. It was my wife and I, so Leanne and I, and then my dad. And my mom was working. She's a teacher, and she couldn't get out of school or had parent teacher conferences or something like that. So she
Yeah, yeah.
couldn't go when we saw them the first time. And so we were like, we got to see them again. We got to see them a second time. Whenever they come to town, we'll go see them again. Well, it just so happened that this band, Collective Soul, we went to go see, was playing with Switchfoot. So Switchfoot actually opened up for Collective Soul. And so that's where I was going with that
Hold on.
story.
When when did this happen? When was this band opening, or when was Switchfoot opening for this band? Like, what year was this?
Uh, a week ago.
Wait, what? Switchfoot was not the headliner?
No, no. Well, I mean, there were three artists and Switchfoot was in the middle. So I would say, no, they're not the headliner.
Were they co-headlining, or are they just straight opening? I'm just finding this hard to believe. That's
Really?
insane to me. Well, I mean, let's do it right now. I'm gonna go look up Collective Soul on
Okay.
Spotify. Let's see what their how many
Okay.
like
We'll go
what
by
their
the top
most.
three tracks, like how
Yeah.
many plays.
All right. So I'm gonna do Collective Soul. You look up Switchfoot. We're gonna see how
Okay.
many.
Okay.
All right. So Shine definitely is the most,
Okay. How many?
but it's 136 million.
Ooh, Meant to Live is 62 million, and that's the number one.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess it's just I've never heard of any of these songs, but yeah, I guess they have more plays
Listen,
because the next
there
one,
is a
yeah,
cult
there's
following
just
here.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's just not not for me, I guess.
It's
Then
all
their
good.
other songs are 63 million, 30, and then two that are 30s. Yeah, I guess so. But hey, all I'm saying is they weren't in A Walk to Remember.
No, that's true. But you may have heard Collective Soul Shine at the retreat at Camp Murto, where I covered that with Zach and Drew and Phil as the youth group band. I don't know if that rings a bell to you, but we did play that song. It was a big deal for us because it was the first song that we played as a group that wasn't technically a worship song. And shortly thereafter, we had a dance with the bearded pizza guy at camp, which I think we got into already on another episode. But um, yeah, so we played Collective Soul Shine for the youth group, and we
Mhm.
had a dance off against what we called
Yeah,
the bearded pizza guy at
yeah,
this
I was
camp,
there.
which was quite an amazing experience. We would always do dance
Yeah.
offs, which we discussed on an earlier episode, and that was like the
So
biggest one I think that
yeah,
I've
so
ever danced in.
this, if I'm remembering it correctly, the way that it worked is you Paul had ordered pizza from the camp, right?
Hmm.
And so they had like their kitchen. They made the pizza, and then they had someone on staff bring it up. So it was this big dude with a beard. It comes up, and I think we were already just like dancing or playing music or something. Uh, and so he comes up, and Paul's like, "Hey, bearded pizza guy!" And he was like, yelling at him, like, get in here!" And they like kind of like peer pressured him into doing it. And so there was a dance off between you and the bearded pizza guy.
Yep, it was pretty good.
Recorded. It's on YouTube. We have the video. We can show it.
It's a great video because I get totally destroyed by the bearded pizza guy who does who spoilers, he does a flip at the end, and
Yeah.
it was just too good. It made the crowd go nuts, and
Well, how are
unfortunately
you
I
gonna
lost
how are you
the
gonna
step
compete
up
with that?
challenge. I know I
Like what?
couldn't.
Mike, what was your like signature move in a dance battle? Because like I know what mine was. What was yours?
Are we going to give away the moves before we actually do our official TikTok dance battle? Have
Well,
we given up
listen,
on that?
I'll tell you that I'm almost positive I can't do my signature move anymore.
Okay,
Uh, I'm too
fine.
old and fat to do it anymore. So I'm pretty sure that I can. I'm pretty sure that I don't. I mean, I will give it a shot, but I don't think I could do it anymore.
Mhm. The move that I would do, it was kind of inspired by the Usher "Yeah" music video. So it's not
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
breakdancing, but what you do is you kind of put one hand on the ground and you kick your legs out, and then you
uh-huh.
can kind of spin and do a little like type of twist thing. I would do that, and sometimes it was cool, sometimes it
Right.
wasn't, but it had the illusion of breakdancing without like actually having to do a full spin or whatever. And I do a lot of
Yeah,
picking up change or hardcore inspired moves as
yeah.
well, just because that got the crowd going, picking up change, shoveling, that kind of stuff,
So
windmilling.
yeah, that the move that you described, okay, that was the move that I would do if I fell doing my signature move to make it look like I did it on purpose, right? So my
Right.
signature move, I believe is called the Cossack kick, all right, or the Russian jig, all right.
Mhm.
So as you'd squat down real low and you'd cross your arms and you kick your legs out, right? I was pretty good at it. I could do it like pretty quick, and then I would also if once I had like gotten into the rhythm of it, I would unfold my arms and I would hold them out to the side as if to say, "Are you not entertained?" But if I ever lost my balance and fell backwards, I would just do the move that you described, where I would just put my hand down and act like I was, doing the like a stall, and then just like
Right.
get up out of it or whatever. Uh,
It was a crowd pleaser.
yeah,
You had that signature move. It was bonus points because everyone
yeah,
recognized it. So
yeah.
it was awesome. But anyways, so that was the night that we played Collective Soul Shine, and then I lost in a dance battle to the bearded pizza guy. But anyways, so Collective Soul was like our family band. We loved it, and we actually went to go see Collective
Mhm.
Soul and not Switchfoot. Switchfoot actually was a side dish that I'd go
Yeah.
see him, but I wasn't about to
See,
drive all that way and wait in line to go see him.
when you were describing it though, because you guys had some tickets that went unused,
I
you were
did.
like, "Hey, does anyone want to go see Switchfoot?" And I like so that's what made me think it was the headliner, and also
Yeah.
because I hadn't heard of this other band, like I
Yeah.
heard of their one song, so I was like, "Oh, Switchfoot's headlining," because that's who he's describing as the tickets being for. But
Yeah, I describe them as that just because I feel like
yeah,
not
because
if you don't
I
know
would know.
Collective Soul, if you don't know Collective Soul already, you probably wouldn't be interested if I said
Yeah,
Collective Soul. But if you
and
said Switchfoot, I feel like it was a higher hit rate, at least for our,
yeah,
circle. You know what I
and
mean?
Collective Soul is not a Christian band. Is that correct?
Well,
Or are they Switchfoot where they're like kind
yeah,
of yeah.
they're kind of like that. Heaven let your light shine down. I mean, that's talking
And
about heaven, right?
honestly, I just assumed that they were because of that, but then
Yeah.
you said something that made me think that they weren't. So is it or are they the type of where they're just like the band members are Christian, but the band itself isn't? Or
Yeah, it's kind of one of those jobs. I don't think they're explicitly Christian, but they're
yeah,
fair. I don't think they curse in their songs, which is
yeah,
like usually a dog whistle for that sort of thing, I suppose. If you know, you know. Oh, they don't curse ever.
yeah,
Interesting. Oh, they
yeah,
said heaven. Interesting. You know.
yeah.
Whereas they kind of sneak it. So yeah, I don't know their official stance, but I think they're Christianity adjacent or Christians in a band. I think
Mhm.
they're from Atlanta, Georgia. So, I don't know if you can separate like the cultural Christianity in the lyrics from like trying to be explicitly Christian.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're actually a perfect match, I think, for the tour pairings because the lead singer
Mhm.
from Collective Soul and the guitar player, they're both
Yeah.
brothers. And in Switchfoot,
Hmm.
the lead singer and the guitar player are both brothers, and they seem to be pretty broy and friendly on stage. I don't know if they kind of like. I don't know. There's a connection there. I think that there's something to be said for that. Oh, hey, we're just like you, except different. But anyways,
Yeah.
so to answer your point about going to see Switchfoot, I actually ran into an old pastor from Northmar
Oh yeah,
at
who's
this
that?
concert. Um, can you guess? It was a missions pastor, and you can't say last name, so it's going to make it harder.
Okay, let's see. Is it? I don't know if I know their first name. Well, I assume it can't be. It can't be Bob, correct?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, it is not. Yeah.
All right, and I think. Let's see. Who else would it? Who else would it be? Um,
Uh,
surely
it was
not the dentist.
nope.
I can't remember his first name. I know his son's name is Brett, but I don't
Yeah.
remember his name. Okay, is it? Tell me what country they were in. Maybe that'll help.
Japan.
Alan.
It
That
was.
I thought they were still. Are they just home? Are they home for right now? Because I thought they were still missionaries.
Yeah,
Are they
they
just
are, but
on?
they're
They're
on home
home.
assignment,
Okay.
and
Dude,
so
that's
when
what I was. That was going to be my guess because I was like, he seems like the right age
yeah,
for this to be here. But then I just was like, oh, they're in Japan.
right, yeah, no. So I mean, if you met Al, a great guy, he's
Yeah,
super tall and stands out in
yeah.
the crowd. So he's like,
Incredible, and ultimate
yeah,
frisbee.
yeah, that's actually one of the things we caught up for a little bit before the concert. But
Sweet.
he told me Switchfoot, seeing them live was like one of his
Mhm.
bucket list things to do, and
Wow.
so I was like, wow, this and he's like, yeah, I know a little bit of Collective Soul, but I mostly came here to see
Yeah.
Switchfoot because that was a bucket list thing, and
That's
he was
that's
on.
a heck of a bucket list item from a man who's traveled the world and lived abroad and speaks foreign languages. It's like, I got to see Switchfoot.
That's exactly what my dad said. Actually, he's like, you got to work on getting a better bucket list
Yeah.
because there's just I don't know, for some reason my dad again. So for some context here, my dad is decidedly not a Switchfoot fan. My dad had 0% interest in seeing Switchfoot.
Ah,
So I think that you may find
Jim.
some.
I like Jim for a reason.
Yeah, the legend of Jim, but yeah, he was he
I
was
get the
not as
joke now. Yeah.
yeah, he was not a Switchfoot fan, so he of course did
He
the
was just
did the
sitting
thing
there
where he
waiting,
teased him about it a little bit. Yeah,
sitting there waiting for it to be over so that.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so I think it was a pretty good concert, and so
Mhm.
we'll go into Switchfoot now, and so I just kind of wanted to describe, this is what kicked off
Yeah.
me wanting to do an episode about Switchfoot because I just seen them live. They played a show. I got to be reminded
Yeah.
of some of their songs that I forgot about. So my first impression was like, okay, I'm not super familiar with like their most recent stuff, but their newest album is called Interrobang, which is the punctuation mark.
Punctuation of the exclamation
Yeah,
point and the question mark. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, this is pretty lame. Like, it's
Yeah.
called Interrobang. Are you kidding me? Like, what's the deal?
But
That's
side note, incredible job whoever named that punctuation mark. Like
yeah,
that is like it's you couldn't do a better job than that for that what that is supposed to portray that
yeah.
name.
Yeah, I just saw it on their merch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That symbol and presumably the album art and things like that. And that was my first impression. I walked into the venue and I saw a bunch of people with Interrobang shirts. I was like, Interrobang, what's that? And then I quickly realized it was, Switchfoot's album. So that shows you
So
how like out of the loop I am. I'm like, is there a grammar conference here where people are
so
like,
Mike, let me hit you with this real quick. This question.
okay,
Um, where do you stand on wearing merch of the band that you're going to see when you go to the show?
I
Some
think
people
that's cool.
say
Yeah.
you should never do it. I think you should. What I'm saying is like when you go to like a sporting event, if you're going to a Browns game, you're not wearing like another team's jersey. Because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm going to this concert. I'm going to wear like a cool different band T-shirt or something." I was like, "Just wear the band's T-shirt." It's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that rule is dumb. When people are like, you're not supposed to wear the T-shirt of the band you're going to see.
Oh, I didn't know that was a rule. I mean,
Oh no,
you know,
that's what I've heard people say. I think it's stupid. I don't think it makes no sense to me. It's like you're going to see it, you should wear it. Like that's what you're there to see. That's what you're
yeah.
excited to see. It's not like if I'm going to a Browns game, I'm not going to be like, now's my chance to wear my Pittsburgh Penguins jersey.
Right.
Like, I mean,
That so the only thing I do have an opinion on in that realm is that if you clearly just bought the shirt at the merch
yeah,
table and then
yeah,
you're
you're changing in
wearing
the
that,
bathroom.
yeah, you change in the bathroom or you're like wearing it over your clothes right now. Like I find that to be a little bit tacky
Sure,
because you didn't even
I can
wash
see.
it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like obviously you just got this the same as everybody else, and now you're going to get it sweaty and destroyed.
yeah.
Um,
No,
so anyway,
that I think makes sense. But I mean, like, people that are like, "Oh, I have the shirt for this band, but I'm purposely not going to wear it and wear something else."
yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
a so. I guess I'll comment on that. Just the kind of shirts that I wore or the
Yeah,
shirts that I saw that weren't Switchfoot or
yeah.
Collective Soul. I saw Blink-182. I
Okay,
saw um, I saw a Judas Priest shirt. I
okay.
saw
Interesting.
a
I would not associate either of those with Switchfoot, but I guess I don't know Collective Soul that much to know
yeah.
whether or not. I still don't think I would associate Blink-182 with them. But you said your dad's into it, so Judas
Yeah.
Priest maybe.
I don't think he would be a Judas Priest fan necessarily.
Okay.
I just that's a
Yeah.
little more, biker metal, I guess, for him. Whereas like, he's more into the classics, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, I guess they are a classic to some. But anyway, so I saw a lot of shirts. I also saw a lot of Christian tees. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of youth group
Any
tees,
any
Alive Fest things.
Air Jesus or Catch Up with the Lord?
No, I kept looking for them, but it was mostly just like such and such church youth group VBS or
Not
whatever,
a not
like
a
those kind of
you didn't see
things.
any Jesus didn't tap shirts.
No, no, I wish. If I would have, I would have taken a picture with them just for the page. But so Switchfoot went into their songs, and I think the first song they played was Stars. When I look
Okay.
at the stars, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, that's a pretty well known song. I know that. Um, but one of the things that it was a very hot day in Ohio. It was
Yeah.
muggy, it was humid, it was 90. And John Foreman, the lead singer, came out wearing like a blazer with like lining on the inside and like jeans. And I'm,
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man, you're gonna die here. Like, I get it, it's a cool blazer or whatever, but let's be practical here. This is not San Diego anymore. You're gonna be roasting. So
Mhm.
he did actually. My review of their show is that I think they did a better job than what I was expecting, like working the crowd, getting people pumped up, and getting people hyped. So they played.
What was the venue? Where were they playing?
They played at Jacobs Pavilion, which
Jacob's
is an
Pavilion.
out,
Okay.
which is an outdoor venue,
Yeah.
right on the waterfront. There, it's pretty nice. I would say it was about half full. It wasn't
Okay.
sold out by any means. Approximately
I'm
half
going
full.
there in a few months. I'm hoping that my show isn't sold out either.
Is that Carly Rae?
Oh yeah, you know it. It's Carly Rae Jepsen co-headlining with I don't remember his name, but he produces a lot of Taylor Swift's music.
Okay, sweet.
Bleachers.
Yeah.
That's the name
Okay.
of it. Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah. No, it was a good venue. It was just really hot that day, and
yeah.
and everyone in the band was wearing clearly not appropriate for 90-degree heat. But it is
So
what it
it
is.
looks you sent me a picture, uh,
Yeah.
and it looks like I don't know if this is zoomed in or were you just that close to him because you
Well,
look
that's
like you're
where I was.
not.
Well,
You look like you're pretty close.
yeah, so that's where I was going with it. We did,
Yeah,
they had bleachers and then they have floor seating, right?
yeah,
And so Switchfoot played Stars. They got through it. They welcomed everybody,
yeah,
and they played another song from their new album. I can't think of it right now, but the third song, um, they were like, oh, they started talking about the 90s, and I was like, okay, whatever. This is probably going to be like one of their older songs from,
yeah, yeah.
like New Way to Be Human or Legend of Chin or something like that. Um, and so they go into a sweet cover of Beastie Boys Sabotage, which I was not expecting at all
That
from
sounds
that
awesome.
band.
That sounds
And
awesome. Was your
and
dad? Was your dad into that?
yeah, I think he was more into that than the other part.
Yeah.
On the topic of cursing, there is a F bomb in that song,
Did he
and
say it?
No, he did not. He
Okay.
said he replaced it with Cleveland.
Yeah.
So, which I don't know. It was one of the things though I wanted to comment on it was that he really he took the wireless microphone and just like ran through the crowd, and you know like people got super hyped for it because he just like
Yeah.
went up in the bleachers and was like,
Yeah.
people were yelling into the
And
microphone with
that's
him.
when you got that picture. Is that
Yeah, and that's when I got the picture when he was doing some crowd work, like
yeah.
in between where everyone was like mobbing him and getting a selfie and
Yeah.
kind of taking
And
the mic
yelling
to try to do parts.
sabotage.
Yeah, so I tried to grab the mic, but unfortunately we were not in the bleachers section, and
Yeah.
it was kind of hard to jump over chairs. But if I would have gotten the mic, I would have given a shout out to at Youth Group Reunion Tour. So that way the entire crowd can listen to this podcast episode and find out, yes,
That's
I
that was
do recall that
that
name.
tchotchke that did that.
Yeah. Yes, he grabbed the microphone during sabotage, and I'm telling y'all, it's at Youth Group Reunion Tour at
He
gmail.com.
literally sabotaged it.
Yeah, he sabotaged. What a pro. But no, I found that. So I looked on YouTube after the show, and it seems that they've done that cover before at other places. So it wasn't like super
Might have to
special
check it
for
out.
us,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really good, and it genuinely impressed me with what they did.
I would say the Beastie Boys are. There's two artists that I never got to see live and never will get to for because they don't perform anymore because
Mhm.
of a death. But it would be Beastie Boys number one,
Mhm.
Avicii number two. Those are
Mhm.
the two that I would want to see that I never got a chance to see them in person.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I
Yeah,
think two great choices, I think,
yeah.
in terms of live show and things like that. But so, anyways, I think they
Doubleheader.
played. Yeah, yeah,
Echo
maybe
show.
someday. Yeah, it would be amazing. And then Switchfoot. Maybe John Foreman is auditioning for the Beastie
Yeah.
Boys. Like he's going to be the third Beastie Boy.
He's gonna replace the MCA.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be Ad Rock, Mike D, and John. He could do it. He had the pipes to do it. But so I think it was a good show. What?
I just I just like the visual in my head of the Beastie Boys. They're like, all right, we replaced MCA. Here he is. It's John Foreman.
And his name,
And his name is just John Foreman. He doesn't have a cool name.
yeah, it's right. Ad Rock, Mike D, John. And it would be funny if like he was like super clean cut, like he like
Yeah.
like was wearing a suit or something like that, and they were still wearing their like backwards hats and things like that with
Yeah.
like drinking 40s, and
Yeah.
John Foreman
Drinking
just like
40s.
smiling. Yeah,
Yeah. Brass Monkey.
yeah. It could happen. I will be the first to sign that petition.
Yeah. Hey, I would see that show.
It would be awesome. No, so back to the show. I think it was a pretty good show, all that considered. That really amped up the energy. People were like,
Yeah.
what are they doing here?
Yeah.
And they played a good mix of songs from their new album and songs that, obviously
Do you
from
have
what I consider their best.
the set list, or just can you rattle off some of the songs? Do you?
Yeah, I can rattle off some of the songs. I'll try to find them. So from their latest album, they definitely
Yeah.
played "If I Were You,"
Mhm.
which was like one of the crowd work songs.
Okay.
They did not play a ton of stuff from like their old thing. So they didn't play hardly anything from Learning to Breathe, but they did play Dare You to Move. They played Meant to Live.
Okay.
I'm just
I was
kind
gonna
of
say,
going
I would be
through.
like, I would be pretty upset if I saw them. Now, full stop there. I'd be upset if I saw them, but also if they didn't play the two songs that I knew,
Yeah.
I would be real upset.
Yeah, they did. They played "Hello Hurricane," which I feel
Okay.
like was a crowd pleaser. Like people expected to see that.
Yeah.
It was so overall. It wasn't like a hugely long type of.
How long did they get? Like an hour?
I would say approximately an hour, yeah. But they
Okay.
did a ton. They did a ton of talking in between, right? Like some bands that just go through their set, but they definitely did a lot of talking and
He's doing a lot of crowd
introduction,
work.
and he did a ton of crowd work. And actually, someone made like a sign for them, like it was
Yeah.
some sort of banner with like they painted it themselves, and it had all of their different album work things on it. Like one thing from each album was on this
Yeah.
giant tapestry that they made. And, it was nice of him. He put it up for everybody to see and like unfurled it and things like that so they can get pictures. So they threw it on stage, and, that was nice of him. He was a class act. In terms of the theme of the show, it was very much like a positive message, if that makes sense. I don't want to say hippie, but it was very
Okay.
much like,
Good vibes.
yeah, it was very much like people around me are your brothers and sisters, and we're all family here
Yeah.
tonight, and let's all work together and make the
Yeah.
world a better
Be,
place type of
be
vibe.
excellent to each other.
Yeah,
Motivate.
yeah, right. It was like that kind of stuff, and so
Yeah.
overall, I think they were pretty good. I think it was a good mix. They guitars sounded good. No major surprises though. With in terms of like they didn't play anything crazy other than Sabotage, which I think was a pretty
Yeah.
good
So
set.
you have heard John Foreman play before in person.
I have, yes.
So tell us tell that story for when he played at Grove City.
Sure. So John Foreman came to Grove City. So one of the activities I did at Grove City, which was super cool, I hope it's still a thing. It was called Stonebridge Concerts, and Stonebridge Concerts was like the group that was an extracurricular group. And what we would do is we were in charge of like booking a fall show and a spring show every year at on campus. And so we do everything from marketing to promotion to working with the riders. Like it was
And presumably they are the people that got Katy Perry to play at Grove City too. Was that?
Yes,
Can I?
yes.
Yeah.
And anyone in any official capacity who's ever played at Grove City, like
Mhm.
I don't count the people who just showed up on campus and started playing at like the SAC with a guitar,
Yeah.
like that doesn't count. But any major thing where tickets were being
Yeah.
sold, it probably was from this group. And it was kind of
Okay.
cool for me to like experience the music business side of things a little bit, to like
Mhm.
what is the process for booking a band? Like
Yeah.
how do we decide who we're going to book? What are their fees? What are the costs? How are we going to break even, or what ticket price are we going to charge? So it was
Yeah.
a really
Yeah.
fun group. It was awesome. Shout out to Stonebridge if anybody's listening who was a part of it or is a part of it now. But it was the first show that I was a freshman in Stonebridge Concerts, and they were,
So this was before I was there.
it was before you were there, I think. Yeah, it was my freshman year. But Fiction Family was John Foreman's project with the guy from Nickel Creek. So I believe it was the guy's name was Sean from Nickel Creek, because they made a joke about calling themselves Sean John or something like that, like Puff Daddy. But it was like a good way to get what we considered an A-list Christian artist for a relatively cheaper rider, because Fiction Family was relatively new. It was a side project.
Right. Right.
It was like acoustic and things like that. So it was super cool. It was cool to work through that and learn what's on Switchfoot's rider. I believe there was some vegan options or
Naked
vegetarian.
juice.
Yeah. It was like I forget exactly what they were, but
So
I do remember there are a lot of vegetables and
the
things like that
the
associated with
reason
the rider.
the reason I know that Naked Juice is on there
Uh-huh.
is because someone else that worked the concert told me this
Yeah.
story. I couldn't remember if it was you or her, but since I mentioned it and you didn't jump in, I'm assuming it must be her.
Mhm.
Emily.
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently, one of the things on the rider was Naked Juice or whatever, and uh, John Foreman had played or whatever and like left it in the green room, and she went in and took it.
That's
And like
awesome.
and then I guess she came back and was like, "Hey, where'd my juice go?" And so she took John Foreman's naked juice.
That's hilarious. No, I actually hadn't heard that story, or maybe I
Yeah.
had and I just forgot about it. That's pretty awesome. It was like a big deal for a lot of us. I know
Yeah.
there were many in this group who tried to and successfully, took random things after they were all cleared out, because if they left it behind, it was now a Switchfoot talisman or whatever. And so there was a random hairbrush in the room where they would get ready, and so I happened to swipe it. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
actually John's or not, but hey,
Hey,
listen, sorry if some
someone's
girl used it, but I'm gonna believe that it was John Foreman's hairbrush.
he's got to have to comb out that long hair, right?
Exactly right. He
Yeah.
definitely had long hair where you're there. But yeah, so it was kind of cool in a smaller venue to
Yeah.
have an artist like
Where
that.
did they play? Where'd they play at Grove City? Was it in the arena, or was it in one of the
It was in
the music halls, or?
It was in the, Jared, this is a terrible thing, but I've been out of college for almost a decade now.
Yeah.
It was the auditorium that was connected to like where the admin stuff is.
Okay. Yep. I know
So
what you're talking about.
do you remember what that's called?
Crawford, maybe?
Yeah, Crawford. It was Crawford.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't think of the name, but it was a sold out
I took
show.
a stab at it.
Yeah.
So.
It was a sold out show. And what I remember from that weekend, I was actually sick with the flu. It was one of the early concerts and things like that, or like it was like shortly after break or before break or something like that. And I just remember being like miserable the week leading up to the concert, just like, just sick in my bed, just with a fever and no sleep because people were dunking basketballs at 3 a.m. on my door and things like that. So yeah, rough times. I did not sleep well in college, by the way. I don't know if you did, but I had a
I
pretty
didn't.
serious
I worked
issue
campus safety
getting to
until
sleep.
2 a.m. many nights a week.
Yeah.
I had a class. I literally had a class that didn't start until like 10:30 or like 11 or something, and I like couldn't make it to it. I was like, too tired.
Yeah, I don't know why. If it's just college or
Yeah.
I just needed more sleep or whatever it was. I was just super exhausted, and I just remember just being super sick around that time.
Yeah.
But anyways, I want to get back into Switchfoot. So I think it was a success. And so where I first came into Switchfoot, which is why this is the cultural touchstones of the 90s and 2000s, my first interaction with Switchfoot was from a WoW 2003 VHS that my dad got from CBD.com or maybe.
Oh, wait, hold on. A VHS tape.
Yes, a VHS.
So it was
tape.
like was it like just music videos of the songs that were on the CD? Okay.
So if you did not grow up in youth group, every year there's a compilation album. It was called the WoW Hits. Now
it was now. It was.
Yes,
it was
I was just about to say they ripped off.
Yeah, I mean, they were like, we're going to change one letter and done.
Yep, exactly. So instead of now, that's what I call music. It was WoW Hits.
Wow, that's what I call worship.
Exactly. It was something like that. But they had an album that was like a 2-disc set, so it had like 20 some songs. But they also had a VHS set that would have music videos for all the songs on the WoW thing. And so the first time I saw Switchfoot was on this WoW tape. And, there's a bunch of forgettable music videos. There's definitely Toby Mac on there. There's, definitely Audio Adrenaline, Newsboys.
Do you remember which music video?
It was probably Shine by Newsboys, and it was probably Underdog Hands and Feet by Audio Adrenaline.
Okay.
So, they were not being played on MTV, right? And you couldn't search for them on YouTube. So, it made sense to watch the music videos. But Switchfoot's really caught my eye because the song was You Already Take Me There. And in this music video, it's kind of an interesting song. It was definitely like a rock power pop type of song, a little grungy, but in the music video, it's the people in the band singing as they are about to skydive. And so the whole music video is them like, getting ready, putting on the gear, and then like halfway through the song, like in the bridge.
Yeah, I watched this music video. And what I'll say is, from what I saw, it appears that someone was skydiving. I do not believe it was the band members, because every time they showed them, it was from below, and it looked like they were just someone was like laying down on the ground in a field, and they were just pretending that they had the blue sky above them, and they were just like pretending, and then they would show like real skydivers from above. So
yeah, maybe it was camera trickery or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah,
remember, it was VHS tape. I did
yeah.
not have the ability to analyze frame by frame to see, if it was an early 2000s green screen here. But I thought it was super cool. And there's a part in the bridge where it slows down and they're like spinning in a circle and doing the thing that skydivers do. And then right before it kicks into that last chorus, it looks like they land and fall flat, like on their face, like without a chute popping, like where their positions would be, where their drum sets and instruments are.
They've got
It's,
X's on the ground for them.
yeah, it's obviously mannequins, but like they hit the ground and like there's a crowd watching them and they're freaking out, and then they like all jump up together at the same time, and then they go into the last chorus. It was like I thought that was super cool. Yeah,
it was pretty funny. You were on the call with me when I watched it. You heard me laugh. I audibly laughed when it happened.
Yeah. It
was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was a Christian music video, right? I had kind of low expectations from Wow Hits, but I was like, okay, this is a band I can kind of get into because they're doing something a little different, and it had like a sense of humor, but it wasn't too like Christian-y, I guess, with like the the references and things like that.
So, would you like me to tell my introduction to Switchfoot now?
Oh yes, I would.
All right,
please.
So, it has long been hinted at on the podcast that I dislike Switchfoot. I hate them. All right, here's the story. Here's why I hate them. All right, so when I was in 7th grade and Mike was in 8th grade, our youth group went on a missions trip to War, West Virginia. West Virginia's southernmost city. I know that because that is they have souvenirs in their town, and that was the T-shirt. It said War, West Virginia's southernmost city, and I had that T-shirt because I thought it was funny that like that was their only claim to fame.
Yeah,
which wasn't necessarily true because they're also the home to
Homer Hickam.
Which was that movie is it October Sky?
Yep, the Rocket Boys.
So the movie October Sky, that was in that town. But all this to say, it is in this rural area of West Virginia. This very poor, rundown. Like obviously depended on coal mining and factories, and that stuff kind of is gone out of there now. And while we were there, we drove, right? Because from Ohio, it was not too incredibly long to get there. It was maybe like it was like a 1 day trip, like a 6 to 8 hours. Does that sound right, Mike? Maybe.
Yeah, I would say 5 hours because for me it's 2.5 hours to the West Virginia border from where we live right now.
Then you got to remember, it's West Virginia's southernmost city. You got to drive all the way through West Virginia,
all the way south of West Virginia. Yeah, I'm gonna map it right now.
Yeah. You let me know how long it says to get there.
Okay.
But so we did it, and what we would do is like on the way we would a lot of times we would have someone make like a mixtape for the drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had one for this. And we had this was before the church vans, I think, had CD players in them. So we had a boom box that was just like being held and was playing the song. And one of the songs, and I remember there were songs on the CD that were awesome, right? Superfan was on there, which was great.
I made this one. Thank you for the review because I definitely made that one.
Yeah, it was actually right. Superfan was on there. That was great. There's a 1,000-Foot Crutch song on there. I don't remember which one. Maybe it was Super Freak or Superfly or Phenomenon. Maybe I don't know if that was out yet. And I think maybe some Toby Mac songs or stuff or whatever. One of the songs that was on there was "Meant to Live" by Switchfoot, right? And so we're in the van and we're listening through it, and we listened to "Meant to Live," and I was like, all right, that was kind of cool. That's fine. And it gets decided that we're gonna listen to Meant to Live only for like it just gets put on repeat and we listen to it for like hours. Just like dry and I was like, all right, I'm done with this song. Like, let's move on. They're like, and I remember the person who was spearheading this was your
Are you
friend
going to name
Drew.
him?
Yeah,
Of
I'll name him.
course. Yeah.
I'll drag him right now. Come on the podcast, Drew. It was like he was like, keep playing it. I was like, so the reason I hate Switchfoot is because of Drew, because he played this song to death, and then out of spite, I decided that I hate them, and so
a permanent loathe because of Drew.
Yeah. So the reason, and friend of the podcast, Caleb, my good friend Caleb, who's a previous guest, Switchfoot is one of his very favorite bands, right? And Caleb and I, in some regards, have very similar music tastes, right? Caleb loves Carly Rae Jepsen. I love Carly Rae Jepsen. Going to see her in concert. Can't wait. But this is a point of contention among us. I was like, Switchfoot sucks. And he was like, I love Switchfoot. And so when Mike was like, I want to do Switchfoot, I was like, all right, I knew that this day would come. We're going to have to, I was like, I'm going to give him a fair shot. I was like, for the sake of the podcast, I'm going to put aside my past history and my prejudices, and I'm going to try and, listen with fresh ears, to see, what it is that, maybe I was missing. And like, did I miss out on this band that I would really like that, Drew ruined for me, or was I never really going to like them? So what I would say is, I don't think there was ever a chance that I was really going to be super into Switchfoot, having gone back and listened to him. So I didn't have time to listen to their entire discography. I asked Caleb, noted Switchfoot fan, give me the 3 best albums that he suggested that I should listen to. And so the 3 that he suggested were Beautiful Letdown. I had already picked that one without him because I was like, that's the one that Meant to Live and Dare You to Move. Like, that's the one those are on. So I got to listen to that one. He suggested Hello Hurricane. And the reason he suggested that is he told me that apparently there was like a time when Switchfoot was kind of locked into like a record deal with a company they weren't particularly happy with. And that this is the first album they made coming out of that deal, and that it was like, I guess like notable, and that like they were excited about it, and that it was like a different sound, that they were into it or whatever. And then the other one that he suggested is Where the Light Shines Through. I also I found the time to listen to Oh Gravity, and I listened to part of Learning to Breathe. So that was what I was able to listen to in my run up to this, right? What I'll say is that there were some songs that I found enjoyable that were like maybe a surprise to me, or like wasn't really expecting. Most of them that I kind of enjoyed were from that Hello Hurricane album that Caleb suggested. There's a song called Mess of Me. I enjoyed that one. That was the first one I was like, all right, I think I could get into this. There was a song called Your Love is a Song. And when it played, I was like, oh, I have heard this song before. And didn't realize that it was Switchfoot. But I was like, I've heard this before. The way I described it to Caleb when we were on Discord last night is I was like, it sounds like a CW song. and he was like, yeah, that's fair. I looked it up. Apparently, it was on one. It was featured on an episode of One Tree Hill.
Totally makes sense. Program directors got that down.
Yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed that song too. Meant to Live, not really a fan. Did not care for it. Don't know if there was some lingering like spite in the back of my mind, but when I listened to it, I tried to listen to it with like fresh ears, and I was like, it's fine. It's nothing to write home about. I wasn't super into it. Dare You to Move. I thought that one was better than I remembered. I was like, I understand why this was on A Walk to Remember.
Right. It was, and
yeah,
among many other songs on Walk to Remember, by the way.
yes,
That was not. So Switchfoot is pretty much the band from A Walk to Remember. And we talked about that on one of my favorite episodes of Youth Group Reunion Tour, by the way, the Walk to
yeah.
Remember episode.
Featuring your lovely wife.
Featuring my wife, Leanne, who, loved that, I
Yeah.
think, more than both of us combined.
I had a good time with it.
No, it was good. I just
Yeah.
mean that, she liked the movie. But Switchfoot was definitely the band from that. And so from that movie, recall that we were trying to figure out why
Oh yeah,
their
I was
song
looking
Only Hope
through.
was so most played, right? Because that was from
Yeah,
like their most obscure album or like
yeah.
one of their
We were
early ones.
looking through Spotify, looking at like play counts, and there was a song that Mike had played for me. What was that music video? The Scooby Doo music video.
New Way
New
to Be
Way to Be,
Human. Yeah.
yeah, New Way to Be Human. Which, by the way, I didn't listen to until Mike was like, "Hey, watch this music video." I liked that song. That was one of the better songs I heard from them that I liked. So that was a surprise for me. Um, but I'm looking on that album, and they're like most of the songs have, you know, maybe a few 100,000 plays. And then there's one that has 20 million. And I was like, what is this song? So yeah, it was the song that Mandy Moore sings in A Walk to Remember. She does like a
The
cover
Only
of it.
Hope.
Yeah, it's the one from the play that she sings. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we had to look it up because we weren't sure, chicken or the egg. But based on the album and based on
yeah.
Wikipedia, that actually was a Switchfoot song first that
Yeah, yeah.
Mandy Moore then did a cover of for the movie and then did a cover of for the soundtrack. And, but it was a Switchfoot song.
Yeah.
So hopefully
Makes
they got royalties for it.
yeah,
It was
makes
a
a
good
lot
one.
more sense why it has 20 million plays now. But
Yeah. So
yeah.
I wanted to go back though. So I totally understand that, Jared. I absolutely get where you're coming from. I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, my interaction and
Yeah,
involvement
go
with
ahead.
Switchfoot. They had some sort of like compilation, not a compilation disc, but I don't know if anyone Switchfoot
Best
fans
of?
remember this. It was not a best of. They actually sold this. It probably was something to do with their negotiated record deal or whatever. But at one point in time, they sold all 4 albums together, I believe. So Legend of Chin, New Way to Be Human, Learning to Breathe, A Beautiful Letdown. It was like in a collectible, like 4 CD set. And I'll try to see if I can find it. Maybe it was just 2, but I definitely remember it was definitely more than one. But they
That's
like
interesting.
packaged all of them together, right? It was like a
Yeah.
re-release or something like that. But
Okay.
it was a good opportunity for me because you pick it up for $20 and then you don't have to chase down all these old obscure albums like you used to.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go kind of in order, I guess, of their earliest. For me, I think Switchfoot was their best probably before 2010. Which does
Which
encompass
would
Hello
which
Hurricane.
which I would say would fall right in with that album that I liked, Hello
Yeah,
Hurricane. It was 2009, which
yeah,
I liked. That what I'll say of the album that I listened to, that was the album that I liked the best. It had the most songs that I enjoyed on it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, most of what I listened to, I would probably not go back to. I didn't. What I'll say is that I don't know that I necessarily like hate Switchfoot anymore. But I wouldn't say that I'm like a fan either, right? Like
yeah.
I
We
don't
got a
know that.
delta. We got a little
Yeah,
bit of a delta. You got your,
right.
your window just got pushed a little bit to
Yeah,
the right.
yeah, definitely. And like what I would say is, I'm probably wouldn't come back to like a lot of what I listen to. But I may come back to some of the stuff from that album. I thought that there were some things that were interesting on there, and the other stuff I maybe would not, pitch a fit if it gets played anymore. I wouldn't be like
Right.
screaming from the back of the van, change it now.
Right. So I wanted to go in order, I guess, of their discography of things that I remembered and things that I think stand out. To me, I like the earlier sound of Switchfoot just because I like the rock part of Switchfoot, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
had a lot more rock influence. And it just seemed like for me, after 2010, it really flirted with momcore a little bit. I definitely did not like "Oh Gravity." That to me was in my mind like a C or D tier Switchfoot song
yeah.
because it really, I guess, was that pivot to like, it seems like this was clearly made to be, it was very safe, I guess, in my opinion. Like it was not really groundbreaking or unique. It just felt like it was a rock song. And you described
Yeah,
it,
and
I
that
think,
song.
perfectly.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, how did I describe it?
Oh, you described them as kind of like the Fray, which
Yeah, yeah.
I think is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, when I was listening to them at various points, the bands I compared them to Mike, where I said the Fray, there were parts that reminded me of Weezer,
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe more so, just like some of the music video we were watching was like maybe not necessarily like the sound, but
Mm-hmm.
the sound the when I was listening to it, the sound of this reminds me of the Fray kept
Right.
coming back to me when I was listening to it. Um, what I would say with like, especially because Oh Gravity, I think came out in like 2006 or
Oh,
something.
did it?
I think that's when that album came out. But if Caleb is to be believed, that would have fallen within when they were in that like record deal that they maybe weren't
Yeah.
totally happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but of like the other stuff that was that coming out around that time that would be like in that same, you know, trying to do the same type of thing, I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think it even compares to
Yeah.
like like Fallout Boy around that
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it like there's I'm never picking Oh Gravity over anything that like Fallout Boy
Yeah.
was doing, or like, or even the Fray, right?
Yeah.
Like Cable Car at
How to
that
say, yeah,
time,
how to save a
I
life. Yeah.
yeah, I would pick those over, that what I was hearing at that time from them.
Yeah. I think
But
that's fair.
but some of their other stuff, like you said, like from Hello Hurricane and the older stuff that you're talking about, I think that and that maybe falls into like what Caleb was saying, was like that maybe they weren't happy, they weren't being their best creative selves, they weren't doing maybe what they wanted to do, they were doing what the record label was telling them they kind of had to do maybe,
Yeah.
and so they weren't, making music that was unique or passionate.
Yeah. There's a lot of bands where their first album is like the album,
Yeah,
because the reason for that is bands have like worked their entire career before you've heard of them
yeah,
to get those songs out there. So they have the most work, right? A lot of times a
yeah,
band's first album is like, oh, this used to be a song I wrote for my old band and now we have a different singer,
yeah,
or like, we had the most time to focus on those, and these are the songs that got the attention of fans or record labels or things like that. And so a lot of times it's very thought out, it's very carefully crafted. Like it definitely is thematic. Everything fits well.
or
And then
maybe
there's
they've been working on those songs for multiple years,
exactly
and
right.
then they get in their second album, they've got, a couple months to put it out or whatever it
Right.
is.
They all of a sudden, a little bit about the music business, I guess, for anyone who doesn't know, but signing a record deal is basically like getting like a business loan, right? Signing a record deal, a lot of times you'll get an advance and, it'll get fronted, and basically collateral are like plays and streams and things like that. So, even though they had a major record deal, which was for the Beautiful Letdown, they had a deal with Sony, which is like, as good as you can get, right? And Sony really, I mean, they blasted them everywhere. They were on the radio. That
Yeah, I
song
noticed
charted
that
really well.
Dare You to Move had been released on a previous album, and
Hmm.
they released it on that album again,
Yeah,
presumably because they were like, when they got that better record deal with Sony or whatever, they were like, this song is going to be a hit for you, which
yeah,
it was, because
right,
it was on uh, A Walk to Remember and other thing,
right.
and that was why it was on two albums.
Yeah. Well, the strategy was to have two singles, right? So
Yeah,
Meant to Live and Dare You to Move.
yeah,
The idea for riding the hype train of like a modern rock band, a lot of
yeah,
times you'll have them have two songs that they kind of sound different from each other. Like if you listen to
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
bands that are out now that have singles, I'm thinking of like 21 Pilots or, Imagine Dragons. A lot of times their first two songs they put out, they want to follow up on that momentum and like make them a thing, because their worst fear is that they're a one hit wonder where like that one song does really well and then no one is interested in anything else they've done ever because it's been 2 years until we got the next single. But anyways, my point about the business, I guess, is that it's really hard because now you have this obligation to essentially pay back that loan, right? So they say, okay, we'll give you $250,000 in exchange for a cut of whatever you get. So you get that money to be able to make it. But now you're under a lot of pressure because, if your ticket sales aren't what you expected, if your sales aren't, or your CD sales aren't what's expected, all of a sudden, you're sort of on the hook and you have deadlines as part of that contract. You got to pay that money back, right? It's like a loan to some extent, right? Where you need to make sure that you're continually growing so you get the next best deal like you would in sports or something. And so
Yeah.
people's second album is always tough because it's a lot of times people who didn't really tour like that before, or, now have all these cooks in the kitchen where it's like, oh, we were doing these interviews and now we have all these radio spots we're doing. When are we going to find time to write? It's like,
Yeah.
we're going from city to city, writing the rhymes, on vacation, touring around the nation. Switchfoot is always on vacation, and
Is that
that's
from? I was
BC
going to say,
Boys.
is that from
Yeah.
Paul's Boutique? Is that for their second album?
That's let me think about it for a second. It was from
But while we're thinking of
Fight
it,
for Your Right to Party. Yeah.
that was one of the things I was thinking of. Is, if I remember correctly, now the Beastie Boys' second album, Paul's Boutique, is like an all-time
Yep.
classic, legendary record. But at the time, I don't think it was anywhere near as well received as Licensed to Ill,
No.
or some of the ones that followed it even. And since we'd mentioned Weezer too, I know that their second album, Pinkerton, was also much less well received when it came out than it is now, where it is maybe considered one of their better albums.
Yeah.
And like a cult classic that has kind of like grown over time, but
Yeah.
at the time was not, not well liked when it was first released.
It's hard to do. I mean, it really is hard to do, right? Some bands do it really well. And a lot of times that first album, like you count that from like the mainstream record deal type of thing, right? Like, what did Fall Out Boys from Under the Cork Tree? Okay, what did their album After do? For some people, including myself, it was like, whoa, what is this? This isn't the band that like.
Thanks for the Memories was great.
Yeah, Thanks for the Memories was good, but This Ain't
the
Scene.
rest,
This Ain't Scene was like it wasn't the band
one
that I liked anymore. So I want to go back in time though to 1997, and I'm going to pick some songs and kind of maybe talk a little bit about the flavor of those older albums that I started to like from this compilation. And so their first album is from 97. It's called The Legend of Chin, who is an old friend of John Foreman's.
What's his name? You say his name is John or Jimmy?
Yeah, something like that. I have to look it up now. But yeah, he's a friend, and he keeps making these he keeps making these cameos in Switchfoot music videos, which is why I had Jared, watch some of these videos, because he does show up as like a friend, and their videos are a little bit quirky, and he's like a big reveal type of person. Willis Chin is his name.
Willis.
So
not even close.
Not even close, but. It was just kind of interesting that like it's kind of cool that like his old friend like keeps showing up in what they're doing as like an Easter egg, I guess, where Reliant K might have a silly song, right, or like talk about Matt Hoops again. It was their friend from back home, which I thought was kind of cool. So their whole first album was like dedicated to this person, Willis Chin, that has his like birthday in there. But some of the songs, we watched this music video, and it's hilarious because John Foreman, the lead singer, has like short hair, and it does feel very Weezer, like 90s.
That was the one when I was like, that was the one I was getting Weezer vibes from.
Yeah. Well, also the lyrics too. It's very much a product, I think, of that almost like Beck loser mentality, where it's like these are kind of like sarcastic lyrics because the Chem 6A song was their single, and it's got a cool, catchy riff, right? Very like almost grungy sounding. It kind of reminded me of the band Everclear a little bit, who just came to Mentor Rocks, by the way. But it reminds me of that because their lyrics are like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to study. Like it's a little bit like Fight for Your Right to Party, kind of mixed in with some of that like grunge sarcasm of like slacker type of thing. So it was kind of interesting to hear that from Switchfoot, but you got to remember, like Switchfoot came from San Diego, and
Yeah.
Switchfoot is a surfing term. It's like goofy foot if you're
Mhm.
familiar with like the skateboarding term.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like when they started, you can definitely tell that they leaned into that surfer slacker thing a lot better. So it's just really interesting to trace them, like how different they are now as like this kind of thoughtful, positive vibes rock band from like this kind of punky, sarcastic, almost grungy band in the 90s that grew up in the surf chill of San Diego. So kind of interesting, but Chem 6A I think is a great track from that. Still holds up today. The video is very 90s inspired, but the other track from this, if you haven't heard it, which was a slow song and an acoustic song, but the song was called You. I don't know if you've heard that one or you got a chance to listen to
No,
that
I didn't
one,
get. I
but
didn't get to that album. No.
yeah, it was relatively popular, I believe, on like random mixtapes. So it was like
Mhm.
I think a good example of a song that was definitely Christianity inspired because it's like, it's about you. Well, who is that you? I think a
Yeah.
lot of people can kind of interpret that generically for romance or things like that, but it seemed to be like kind of a cool song, but I think it set the tone for like that crossover vibe of like, their songs are fun, they didn't curse, but there's also some things that kind of like vaguely point towards God or whatever. So I think that was a cool album. The second album was from '99, New Way to Be Human. I first came into this album.
I
Actually,
liked
I
that
watched
song.
I watched the
Oh,
music
yeah.
music video too,
Yeah, I
which I
like the
think is
music.
the best
That
part
was
of it.
the Scooby Doo. I referred to a Scooby Doo music video. That's that one.
Yeah. So New Way to Be Human, right? It's they're kind of doing this like thriller zombie walk type of thing in part of it, and
Yeah,
they're in
yeah.
like this haunted house, and like it is Scooby Doo inspired. I guess that's the thing. But the ending is awesome. There's like the Scooby Doo part. There's
Willis makes his appearance.
Yes, there's a mask reveal, and one of the best parts of that music video, if you haven't seen it, the song starts off. It goes ding, 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 and it's like a bell, right? Like ding, ding, ding. And in the music video, it's like a bellhop person who shows up in the elevator. So the guy's in the elevator, and the bellhop just goes ting, 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 like hitting the bell to the part in the song. And I thought that was super awesome. Like it seemed well produced, especially for a Christian music video at the time. It it
Now,
rem-
when you're saying this, because I have heard disputes of like that Switchfoot themselves have claimed that they are not a Christian band, but they are rather Christian. Like the members of the band are Christian,
Mhm.
but the band itself is not. And that they, at some point, I don't think they do it anymore, but like they were trying to distance themselves from like Christian music because they just wanted to be like, hey, we're just like an alternative rock band. We're not a Christian band.
Right.
And they were like not purposely at some point. I think this is like right after, like they hit it big, like
Mhm.
with the Beautiful Letdown, where they were like purposely trying not to do like Christian like music concerts and things like that because I guess the idea being that they just kind of wanted to like stand on their own and let their music speak for themselves. And even though that there may be Christian themes in some of the songs, they for whatever reason didn't want to be like pigeonholed into
Yeah.
like being a Christian band.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it makes sense from their perspective. I find it
Yeah,
to be like somewhat cheesy though, just be who you are, I suppose. But
yeah,
I think it's for them, if I had to put words in their mouth, it's
yeah,
probably not just because like they want to talk about other controversial subjects, because it doesn't
yeah,
seem like that's really who they are as a band or whatever.
yeah.
But I think it was just more of like
Broader audience appeal.
when people are trying to pigeonhole you, Christian festivals are definitely very different and very
Uh-huh.
niche, and certainly not something that just from like a business and lifestyle standpoint, I don't know that I'd want to
Yeah,
like go all in on the Christian music festival thing, because it used to be really
yeah,
big, right? There was
yeah.
Hellfest, there was Alive Fest, there was all of these Christian festival con Dios, all these huge Christian festivals in like the glory days of 2001 to 2009, and
Yeah,
now it's sort of related to like Winter Jam and
yeah,
smaller things. So I think from a purely business standpoint, like there are some places that probably won't book you if you're like, oh, you're a Christian band.
Yeah.
Just not that they wouldn't like you, but they just feel like the draw, like, if you think of it from the perspective of like a venue owner, oh, this is a Christian show. There's probably not going to
Limited
be many
appeal.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just there's limited appeal, but from
Mhm.
the venue perspective, you want people drinking,
You want people
right?
buying alcohol.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you want people drinking and like
Yeah.
having a good time and things like that, because that's what really makes you the money. Whereas, like, if they picture a Christian show, right or wrong,
Yeah.
if they picture a
Youth
bunch of
groups
Mormons,
rolling
yeah,
in with
right.
100, 50 kids or whatever. None of them are drinking.
Exactly, right. So I just think from a business perspective, it probably makes sense to be like, hey, we want to, play with other types of bands, like maybe a
Yeah.
Collective Soul or, maybe a Nickel Creek. We don't want to be known as the band that can only be booked with Toby Mac or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which was, it is what it is, but it was just, I guess, from my perspective, I think it
I
makes
just
sense to
thought it was
not want to be
maybe
pigeonholed.
worth bringing up that aspect of them. Now, I mentioned this last night to Caleb,
Mhm.
and he said something, and I'm gonna butcher it. But I guess John Foreman had been asked that, and he was like, to whoever had asked him was like, well, how would you define a Christian?
Mhm.
And like it's someone who has accepted Christ in their life and professed that he died for their sins and that they're covered. Like he's like, well, how could a song or a band do that? Like
Mhm.
how could a song be redeemed, or how could like that was like the argument that he made.
Mhm.
Sorry for butchering that, Caleb, but anyone that like, I'm sure you could go find it online what he said exactly in some interview or whatever. But I guess that was kind of his argument, is like that even though our band is comprised of Christians, like the thing that defines us as a Christian can't be applied to a song or a band or something. So
Mhm. I mean, I don't know that I'm wholesale on board with that explanation, because no one would ever hear a worship song and be like, oh, well, that's just a song. That's actually not worship, right?
right,
It's just
I
like,
know. I think
yeah.
it's. I mean, like I said, I think he was. You know, I think there. I get what he was trying to say, even though he made like that analogy isn't perfect, and also I probably butchered it and explained it poorly. But I guess that was yeah. Well, I guess maybe saying like a song cannot confess this. I guess like itself.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, but I think that when a song is written from a particular perspective,
yeah.
usually when people say that, like the most famous example of this is Evanescence, which I think
Yeah.
this is hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, I think we talked about this before, maybe on the
Yeah. Do it
podcast.
again.
Okay,
Just quick. It's a short story. Tell
so,
it.
so Evanescence, Bring Me to Life, right? They did a song with 12 Stones, and 12 Stones, again, that's a
Mm-hmm.
biblical reference, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everyone assumed they were a Christian band. Family Christian Stores, sold like 200,000 copies of Evanescence's album, right? Because they
Yeah.
just assumed, hey, it's got 12 stones on it. They have vague spiritual references on here, and there's no cursing. Got to be a Christian thing. Put it right in the section next to POD, and and boom, we're good to go. And so, like, famously in an interview, the guitar player from Evanescence was like, someone told them that they were like charting on the Christian charts for that reason, and they were like the top selling album at Family Christian Stores. And he was like, "What the f are we doing in the Christian charts? We're not an effing Christian band," which was like, it definitely
They
sent a
got him
message.
off
Yeah.
it real quick.
Yeah, and which was a stupid business thing, I
Yeah.
guess, because now they got yanked very quickly, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there were some parents who were like, well, not buying that CD for you
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you just got rug pulled. Time to break them over the Harry Potter, but I just teasing about that one. But it was kind of interesting, I guess, to see how that entire industry sort of like evolved. From my perspective, it's very clear and obvious when it's written from a Christian perspective, in terms of like, my faith informs these songs and they inform the majority of these songs. So, for me, a Christian artist is an artist that has spiritual, or at
Yeah.
least a Christian worldview in their songs, and they don't curse. I think that's kind of the marker of like if they're a quote Christian band. Because when a lot of people say are they Christian, they mean like if I put this on shuffle in the youth room, am I going to be surprised that there's a song about inappropriate themes for middle schoolers here, or can I just press play on shuffle and be okay? And I think from that perspective, it's really hard to do that, and it is rare to find an album, even for a relatively clean band, to find something that's totally like youth group safe every track. I think that's really what the question is asking. They're not really asking, are they coming to saving? Is this song expressing saving faith in Christ? It's more of like, is this safe to play? Like that.
Is this PG?
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Is there objectionable content here? Right.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it is interesting because there are some bands who, maybe explored some things, I guess, in a little more edgy direction. That POD has cursed in their songs before, right? I wouldn't call them
recent Under Oath songs have swearing in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like there's things like that, right? That like it doesn't necessarily mean what we think it means. I just think it was like a generic label to say, is this youth room friendly for a youth retreat?
Am I going to have to hear about this from parents later?
Exactly. And also a little bit about the artist behind it, right? Because I know you have to separate the art from the artist all the time, right? Whether it's an actor or whatever, it's like, I really like that person, but boy, did they just do something like, that's pretty bad. And, I just think if you're playing it for youth group or playing it for Christians, the idea is like, not that you can't do this, but the idea is I'm not going to have to explain this person's crazy tirade that just happened in the news cycle. Like I guess maybe that answers the question, is Kanye a Christian artist, right? Because it's kind of hard to defend, some of the Kanye isms when, right or wrong. It just, it is what it is. Whereas like, no one has anything bad to say about John Foreman. He seems to be like a likable dude, like positive vibes, like kind of, let's get together. Yeah. Type of thing.
We had, if you'll recall from one of our earlier episodes, we had John Foreman Defender at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I gotta talk about this. Like, is he like the Christian singer Heartthrob? He's got to be, I guess.
I would say Matt Thiessen.
Okay.
More like he's got. I don't know. We need a woman. Get Leanne.
We've got the wrong audience here, but I will tell you this embarrassing story here. So, I'm coming full circle with this, and I think this is more important than going through some of their other albums and songs that I liked. Gone was a good song. Okay, I like it. It's underrated. Listen to Gone. But while we were at the concert, I mentioned that I started off by saying John Foreman wore this stupid blazer with velvet lining and long jeans or whatever. And so inevitably, like 2 or 3 songs in, that had to come off. And so he's just dripping with sweat by the 5th or 6th song. And to wipe himself off, he took his t-shirt and he took the bottom of it, pulled it up over his head to like wipe it. And my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, he has really ripped abs." I mean, it was just like one of those things that it was a little bit embarrassing, I guess, that it was a big deal for my mom to see John Foreman
shredded.
And really he wasn't totally shredded. He just, had a surfer dude look, I guess. It's not like, I don't know. It's not like it was like he was like impressively ripped or something like that. Yeah. But I don't know. I guess people dig the surfer super tan, look. But it was just one of those things that I don't know. It a little embarrassing to see my mom comment on John Foreman's abs, but it is what it is. I can't change the past. I had to live through it just like everybody else. But overall, so Jared, you mentioned you changed your opinion of Switchfoot a little bit. I think my opinion of Switchfoot was changed as well after the show. But I do think that my largest gripe is probably still there, which is they have a lot of songs that are just too safe, right?
Yeah.
That like they're kind of predictable with where they're going.
Yeah.
The themes are interesting, but there's only so many times I guess they can talk about. Their newest album, I guess, seemed like not preachy, but it just seemed, I guess, a little bit boring of how many times they could do the message of like we should listen to other people's point of view, which is good, right? Listen to
Yeah.
people's point of view. It just seemed like it was in every song, and it kind
Yeah.
of like got a little bit old after a while, in my view.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
like I feel like earlier Switchfoot, they had a lot of different types of like lyrical themes.
Mhm.
They had a song called "Loser," just like Beck. It
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
little more like tongue in cheek, I guess, to borrow an album name from Reliant K. But um, it just felt like it was more fun when it was a little bit goofy, and that's
Mhm.
kind of what I miss about Switchfoot, like the skydivers with the fake bodies and the new way to be human, like taking off the mask like Scooby Doo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was happy to see in their newest music video from Interrobang, if I was you, or if I were you, I
Uh-huh.
believe is what it's called. At the very end of it, they pull off the masks to reveal Chin again, and I thought that
It's a call.
that was kind of
Impressive callback. Yeah.
it was a
It's
cool
like
callback.
like a 20-year callback.
Yeah, and I feel like fairly interesting from my perspective to see them come full circle. Like it's still there.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
still have that attitude. They can still be fun. It's just I didn't really maybe give them the time of the day, and
Yeah.
I think that they do have some good tracks out there. I think it is fair, but overall, still not my favorite. Still not my least favorite. I think that they are a good, solid middle of the road band, and I'd rather see Switchfoot open up for Collective
So,
Soul
all
than
right. So with that, let's rate Switchfoot out of 5 Scooby Doo mask reveals.
okay.
Where would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 5?
I think they are a perfect 3. So they are not a bucket list band for me,
Mm.
and they are not a band that I would immediately go to the nearest restroom and lock myself there for the duration of the concert
Mm.
for like a 1. It would be hard for me to think of a 1 band, to be honest. Maybe like I don't know. We saw a lot of 1 bands at the Champion Roll Arena, I guess, back
Yeah.
in the day. But, I think that they were a solid 3, leaning to 3.5.
Yeah.
They have cool lyrics. They have cool riffs. He's a talented singer. He really
Yeah.
has a distinctive, interesting sound to him, and they're not super generic in the vocals, but I think that their peaks don't make up for, I guess, some of their rough patches in my view. That like you need to have 2 good songs for kind of a stinker, in my opinion, and I don't know if there's enough good to outweigh some of the what I consider the cheesier or like throwaway type of tracks. So
Yeah. So for me, coming into this, solid 1, 0, 1. No, didn't rate them at all. Hated them. Coming out of it, having like trying to listen to them objectively and give them a fair shot. Like I said, I still don't really think they're for me. I found some things in there that I liked. Um, I I think they're probably sitting around like a 2.5 for me
Mhm.
now. Like in terms of like youth group bands, like
Mhm.
maybe they're a 3 when I'm thinking like solely as a youth group band and not
Mhm.
considering things like the Beastie Boys or Carly Rae Jepsen and things like
Mhm.
that. But like it is a general, I think 2.5 to 3 is right where I'm sitting, where like they're fine. I maybe don't hate them. I'm not rushing out to like a bunch of their songs on Spotify or like make a
Mhm.
playlist or anything, but I could probably I think I could listen to pretty much any Switchfoot song, but Meant to Live now, and probably and be like, oh, this is fine. Like this is I can appreciate it. Meant to Live, I'm still not down with. I
Yep.
know that's
That
one of their most popular songs. It's not for me.
Yep. It's
It was
over.
ruined. It was tainted. It was ruined for me.
It's just like the torture device of Demon Hunter, which we'll get
Yeah,
into on an upcoming episode.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, if we missed something, if we missed obviously the best Switchfoot song or music video, or you want to get into a debate with us, or you're a lot more knowledgeable about something that you think we missed or we need to cover when it comes to Switchfoot, we'd be happy to listen to your feedback. If you send us an email on our mailbag, youthgroupreuniontour@gmail.com. We will read it if you want us to. If you don't, that's okay. But we are genuinely interested in learning from you.
Come for our necks. Come for us.
That's right.
Tell us what an idiot I am.
We will have a debate live on air about, Switchfoot albums if you want to. That's how serious we can get. You could also access the rest of our socials on our Yat page. So y.at/cool church, raised hands, guitar. Those are all emojis on your emoji keyboard in case you're not up with that cool site. We also have a Twitter. So we are at YG Reunion Tour and at Youth Group Reunion Tour on Instagram. Some things coming up with the podcast. We thank you so much, everyone, for listening. It's hard to believe when we started this podcast that we're looking at 15 episodes right now. We thought we would hopefully get 7, and now we're at 15. So thank you to everyone who is listening, liking, sharing the word. Really exciting stuff. Just some updates on the podcast. We do have some episodes. We experimented with video episodes. We still have them in the vault. I don't know if you want to listen or see them. They are based in video, and that's a lot harder to edit. But if someone feels really, really strongly about a Bible Man video that we did, or feels really, really strongly about the movie Apocalypse,
which we're still planning to release the audio for Apocalypse. We just haven't. It's a very long episode, and it is very labor intensive, and Mike is doing his best. But if anyone is interested in seeing the video of us, the unedited raw video of us doing Apocalypse, we can release it on YouTube.
That's right. So please let us know. We're always looking for the best way that you can get podcasts and the best way to engage with you as a listeners. We love you. You're great. We are now listened to in over 20 countries. So it could be our friend just moving around from country to country, but it doesn't matter. That's still a good stat. And if you search for us, make sure you click on us. I know that at one point in time, when you search for Youth Group Podcast, Youth Group Reunion Tour was the first thing, and then Google changed their algorithm. So, if you do search for us and see us, make sure you click and tell Google that we are super relevant to your search things. So,
and rate us if you haven't yet.
Yeah, rate us. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Though I appreciate your time. We love doing this. Just wanted to hear some feedback from the group, and with that, we will catch you on the flip side.
Check this out.